In 1962, what looked like an oil storage tank began to take shape near the intersection of Highway 100 and what was then Highway 12 in St. Louis Park. It was one of only 3 of its kind in the world. It was built especially to put you in the picture.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cinerama.
Named after the Nebraska foundation that built it, the Cooper Theater was part of the so-called Golden Triangle of early 1960s movie theaters, designed specifically to showcase a widescreen format called Cinerama. The first was in Denver, the second here in St. Louis Park, and the third in Omaha.
Cinerama was, in many ways, the original IMAX.
It is the first public demonstration of an entirely new medium, which we believe is going to revolutionize the technique of motion picture storytelling.
Invented in the 50s, Cinerama used specialized equipment to record and display panoramic images that engulfed the audience.
What you had were 3 separate projectors showing from different angles at the back of the auditorium. And it was shown onto this large, I think it was 120-foot screen that was not a screen as such. It was hundreds of these strips, these louvers. It's sort of like a sideways Venetian blind, which curved to make this curved screen that went partially around the audience itself. So the audience felt like it was immersed in the pictures. There was nothing like this anyplace else in the world. This was going to movies in the round.
The Cooper was meant to be an experience in every way, from its 3-story high screen to its state-of-the-art transistorized sound. From its burnt orange exterior to its cushy blue mohair seats. From its luxurious lobby to its Swiss chocolate serving concession stands.
You couldn't get popcorn, you couldn't get chewing gum, anything else that wasn't considered classy enough for the Cooper. That was part of what going to the Cooper was about, was, I guess, having this limited number of things that you could sip on and chew on while you were going to the movie.
The grand opening of the Cooper featured the film The Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm and was presided over by host Senator Hubert Humphrey and his wife Muriel. But it was the second film to play there that would cement the Cooper's status as the new go-to cinema. The epic Western How the West Was Won played for a phenomenal 88 weeks, its longest run at any U.S. theater outside of Hollywood.
There were people who came from all over the Midwest to see movies at this place. The whole idea was not to just pull from the Twin Cities, but to pull from the whole region. And for a while, it worked quite well that way.
But Cinerama films were very expensive to produce. Within just a few years, it was becoming clear that not enough of them were being made to keep theaters alive that only screened this specialized format.
So in 1970, the Cooper in St. Louis Park started switching over to regular format films. The first one was Airport.
One of the first of the popular disaster genre films, Airport, featuring a star-studded cast including Burt Lancaster, Dean Martin, and George Kennedy, had special significance for Twin Cities residents. Our own airport, Minneapolis-St. Paul International, had been used as a location since it could provide the snow so integral to the movie's plot. A few local actors landed minor roles in the film, and hundreds of extras were employed for the airport crowd scenes. Paradoxically, the white stuff we're so infamous for refused to fall initially, and the crew was forced to use bleached sawdust instead. Our reputation was ultimately redeemed when a snowstorm finally hit during production. The Cooper was the site of a gala event for the local premiere, a fundraiser for the newly formed Minnesota Association for Retarded Children. Once again, the Humphreys co-chaired the event, Hubert having just finished his stint as vice president.
They actually landed a couple small planes there next to the Cooper in the parking lot. They brought in a couple of the minor stars from the movie. I think Jacqueline Bisset was there and maybe a couple of others.
Local actors in attendance were Nancy Nelson, who had a bit part as an insurance saleswoman, and Twin Cities radio DJ Johnny Canton, who also appeared in the film. Airport itself performed phenomenally. The gala raised $30,000, and in its opening week at the Cooper, the film grossed a record-breaking $40,000. It would go on to become one of the theater's biggest hits. Even without Cinerama, the Cooper remained a destination. But soon, its legendary reputation for class, comfort, and cleanliness — the huge screen was washed regularly and the lobby was repainted monthly, if you can believe it — began to suffer.
During the 70s, the Cooper started losing its luster. The company that owned the Cooper during the 1970s stopped putting money into the Cooper. The upholstery on the seats was getting tattered. The carpet was stained. It wasn't being kept up. And when that happened, there were fewer and fewer reasons to go to the Cooper.
In 1975, responding to mounting economic pressure, in the words of the industry, to go multiplex or die, the Cooper built a 300-seat addition to the original 1962 building.
It was called the Cooper Cameo Theater, which was nothing like the experience of going to the Cooper itself. But it just sort of said which way things were going, and they weren't going in a good direction for the Cooper.
By the mid-1980s, the deteriorating theater had gone through a series of ownership changes. The death knell for the Cooper was when its final owner, Cineplex Odeon, opened the Willow Creek Multiplex just 3 miles away. Unwilling to either spend the money needed to restore the Cooper or sell it and create competition for themselves, Cineplex Odeon opted to shut it down.
The Cooper Theater is, or rather was, unique. The parking lot is now empty, the doors are locked and the marquee blank. The owners closed the Cooper Theater January 31st for economic reasons.
They showed their last movie. It was Dances with Wolves. It was a very sad moment for a lot of people who came to watch that last show.
The Cooper was a Midwest icon for 3 decades, but since it didn't meet the 50-year age requirement needed to attain historic landmark status, efforts to save it were fruitless.
The theater closed down. Within a year, it was torn down. All those orange metal panels that everybody had seen for so many years were hauled away, and it existed no more.
The other 2 Cooper Cinerama theaters of the Golden Triangle fared no better. The Cooper in Denver had been demolished 5 years earlier to make way for a Barnes & Noble.
Indian Hills, the last surviving theater of its kind in the world, is slated to be torn down for a parking lot.
And despite an intensive grassroots campaign and widespread support to save it, the last of the 3 iconic theaters met the wrecking ball in 2001. Much like this site where our Cooper Theater once stood, it is now indeed a parking lot.
The greatness and beauty of America, pictured with a splendor never seen before.